Oh, hello there. If you have stumbled across this video, that means that you have stumbled upon one of my media channels, that being my YouTube or my Twitch. So if you are in fact new to my content and new to me, let me introduce yourself with a nice little presentation I have here, although one that is probably going to be a bit rambly, because I'm doing this a little bit off the cuff. So, I guess without further ado, let me give you an introduction to myself and also to my content. So, my name is in fact Lolo De Puzlo, and I prefer that you would use masculine pronouns to refer to me, that being he, him, or whatever your local language's equivalent is, if it is in fact a gendered language. I am a researcher by trade, and that has brought me into kind of looking into some kind of interesting things, especially things that I have noticed from your world, because as you can probably tell, it seems like I might be a little bit different than the people in your world. Yeah, I don't know if you have people like me in your world, as I am in fact a locus. What is a locus? I will tell you that in a second, but first, you might be wondering how I have come across your world. That being, I happen to be someone who is pretty good at divination. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I notice the magic in things. There's magic in a lot of things. Things, especially things that, you know, magic can be multiple things. But I look into the magic that resides in many different things. And kind of see what that kind of brings out. In fact, I have somehow managed to divine my way into your world via this medium, I guess. So, yeah, that's how I'm here, I guess. Anyway, as I was mentioning, what is a locus? Because you might be wondering, that's a weird-looking fella. I have not come across any more of my kind here, so let me introduce you what we are. So, yeah. Our species actually seem to be, your world and my world are pretty similar. So, we seem to, or at least in our world, the locust are a species that kind of seem to be as thought of as either beginning or a end of an evolutionary line. In fact, it seems like we comprise of actually a lot of different creatures in our world. To put it specifically, the science out there seems to have it that we are 35% dragon, 25% hominid, 20% canine, 10% lagomorph, and 10% a very generic other. That could be in a lot of things. A little bit of, I don't know, bear, I don't know, kangaroo maybe. But yeah, so... Yeah, also another thing about us, as I mentioned, that I have a little bit of magical ability. In fact, all of our locus has some sort of magical ability, whether that be, I don't know, audio magic or audiomancy, even like health stuff like that animancy stuff that I'm not quite super familiar with. But yeah, a lot of, in fact, all of us have some sort of magical ability. I apparently have been using mine to play video games. So yeah, and yeah. Also, as I mentioned, I do use he, him pronouns. In fact, it seems like while your species, or a lot of species that I've seen, seem to be locked, unfortunately, to one, we actually are able to adapt ourselves quite physically. In fact, I'm able to, I and my species are able to kind of mix things up. So you might see some little bit of, I don't know, maybe what you might consider more feminine stuff, or maybe more masculine stuff. But yeah, we can adopt at will. I've chosen, I don't know, I feel more happy with masculine stuff, so even if I look at just, yeah, he, him, please. Also, as I mentioned, I've been using my magic to kind of observe your world and some of your media. From this, here's an example of some of my favorites that I have found from observing stuff, and the kind of stuff that I really like to focus on. So speaking of games, my three favorite platforms to play games on, I focus mostly on retro stuff. In particular, like the Famicom Disk System for its weird, it's an interesting platform, only available in Japan, it seems. And the games on it aren't exactly conventionally good, but it's interesting. It's from an interesting time period, it seems, of development. Not a lot of standards were set, and it's an interesting time period. Another case, although this seems to be called a few different things around the world, a TurboGrafx CD or PC Engine CD from NEC seems to be the company that made it. It's a platform that it seems like the CD platforms of the 16-bit era weren't exactly highly regarded. Mainly because they had a lot of the technology wasn't used to, like, it was used for very kind of gimmicky stuff with its full motion. But if you look into some of the stuff that's available on the PC Engine CD and the TurboGrafx, and particularly the PC Engine, the stuff that seemed to come out of Japan seemed to be a little bit more interesting on that platform. You find some really interesting stuff there, which is the kind of stuff that I really like to look into. Kind of, maybe not exactly conventionally good, but kind of quirky stuff. And also, it seems like your arcade games, like those, the ones that, you know, seems like it's dying around the world, except for, well, you know, it actually kind of dying around the world. But the arcade brought about kind of an interesting kind of take on games. It's very pure in gameplay, which seems to be pretty interesting to me. In fact, I've noticed a few different developers, like as I've seen from the games that I've taken a look at. Some of here's some kind of my favorite developers. You got HAL Laboratory. In particular, there's an interesting series that they did called, it seems like it's either called Eggerland or Adventure Lolo. Kind of funny that it's a very neat game, though oddly enough, it seems to share my name for some reason. That's a weird coincidence. But yeah, also another, it seems like a more modern company, Onion Games, seem to be producing some very interesting things. And it seems like another company that seems to, I really have liked their stuff, is Taito. Very much going into that arcade thing, although they're doing some really weird stuff with their older stuff, or their older franchises in now modern days. So those are also pretty interesting. To say some stuff that I like to do with other people, or like other, like some multiplayer stuff, I've noticed that Fightcade's a really good platform for playing obscure, or more obscure and like older fighting games, and all, not just fighting games, but like pretty much anything arcade you can do, or like a lot of everything arcade, but a lot of things arcade you can do in Fightcade. It's a really good platform, and it actually it's really stable. Weirdly enough, it's really stable even across this, you know, whatever universal connection we're using. It must be because I'm wired, or using a wired connection. I guess that wired is better than Wi-Fi even across universes, it seems. Kind of interesting. But yeah, also another game that's interesting is SWAT 4. Probably one of my favorite multiplayer games. As well as Phasmophobia, a game in which you hunt ghosts. And it's also, I'm not just into retro stuff, some of this stuff that even hasn't technically come out yet as of this presentation is also pretty interesting to me. I don't just take a look at video games, I've looked at other media, like your movies. Some of the movies that I seem to really like is RoboCop. RoboCop's a really good movie. Not just for its very brutal action, but also for its messaging, and also just being a very much of a time capsule of the movie, very much late 80s kind of thing. Also, Streets of Fire is a really good movie that also is from that time period, although that's a weird one. Kind of interesting take where it's a very anachronistic 50s movie that's technically not set in the 50s. Very good music. Jim Steinman's a good musician. And also, I like the movie Heat. It's a slow burn, but also it's a very good movie. It's a bit long, I'll give you that. But also, hey, that bank robbery seems really good. Yeah. Also, some TV shows that I like. Columbo. Columbo's a really good movie. Well, kind of technically they're movies. Although if you think about it, those are way too long to be episodes of TV shows. But yes, Columbo is a good protagonist and just a very good show. Speaking of a very also murdery kind of thing, Agatha Christie's Poirot is also a very interesting kind of murder mystery series. Yeah, it's just a really good version of some books also that seem to be really good from what I've read. And yeah, also Jeopardy. I like trivia. I don't know if you noticed this, but I really like, especially with older stuff, I really like trivia. I like it a lot. And yeah, also some other things like anime and manga seem to be another sort of media, just to give you an example of some of the ones I like. Space Cobra. It's a very silly series. It's very... I would say sexually charged might be an interesting way of phrasing it, but yeah, it's a very interesting series that has some very interesting imagery, but it's also still pretty cool. Not as skeevy as it might seem, although still kind of technically a little skeevy, but it's better than it looks. Also, don't base it off the Sega CD game, because that game's not good. Anyway, Azumanga Daioh, also a very good anime, also good manga. I've watched or / read both. They're very good. It's very cute. It's a very good slice of life. It's practically the only slice of life I actually really like. That's how it made me Nichijou. But yeah. Also, Naoki Urasawa's Monster, very good. The manga's really good, is what I mostly am familiar with, although I've seen the show a little bit. Both really good. Not exactly traditional anime / manga thing. It's really good. I can't say enough good things about it. That needs to be, like, the show needs to be available more places. So yeah. And yeah, speaking of content, let me tell you about the stuff that I create. So, I aim to make content that basically are focused on kind of 4 things. One, I've mentioned this already, retro focus. My expertise lies within retro gaming and retro media in general, and I like to focus on retro content. It's what I know. It's what I'm good at. I know a lot of weird trivia about this stuff. I've seen a lot of it. Also, as I mentioned, I like trivia. I like my stuff to be educational. I like being informative with my content, so I can give out obscure trivia for media that I cover. Pretty self-explanatory there. Also, another thing, I like being cozy and positive. I like to keep things light and fluffy, to serve as a nice place of comfort when the world gets you down, because it seems like, just like my world's going through a little bit of a weird political stuff, it seems like it's kind of a universal thing that things get a little bit hectic, and I like my place to be, like my stuff to be a nice little bastion, or of where you can kind of let your brain rest a little bit. So you can just put it outside for a little bit. It's important to focus on, like, that stuff, but yeah, I like my place to be kind of a oasis, a way that you can just let your brain rest for a little bit, so you're not constantly draining it with the real world fun stuff, so to speak. Also, speaking of fun stuff, I really like being inclusive. Yeah, I like my content to be available to anyone. I really don't like, excluding people, because that's not good. I like doing stuff that has a lot of representation of various different things, because my world's very diverse. I would like it for the world, everywhere, to be a little bit more diverse. Diversity is actually pretty cool. It gives you pretty interesting stories. So, yeah, as you're watching this, don't be shy to get involved. Those from all walks of life are welcome, except for if you're kind of a bigoted douchebag. I don't like that. Please go away if you're into that stuff. So yeah, regardless, let me tell you about what my actual content is, rather than describing what it kind of is. So my main show, Retro Rank Rhapsody, it's a stream series that focuses on taking a look at games that are either retro by age, currently pre-6th generation or prior, or by design. That being, think about games that are by, like, Loco Maldito. That's a good example. Maldita Castilla, Hydra, games like that. The recent Mega Man 8 or 9 and 10. Another example of technically modern, although very retro by design. And we take those games and we rank them on the 1 to 21 spectrum. There's also 3 technically side ones, but those are very rare. And but yeah, it's about ranking stuff and putting it kind of comparatively. It's yeah. So yeah, another side thing to Retro Rank Rhapsody is Retro Rank Relief. As I mentioned, I really like I like being inclusive, and I also like helping people out, which is why monthly, or once a month, usually on a Saturday, I will do an extra long stream. That by that I mean 6 hours, in which I will specifically, even though it's open all the time, I have a thing called the Retro Rank Relief, which is every quarter we pick a different charity and we give it basically play games, and we kind of go extra long and you can give money on, like, really, technically my behalf, although I like to think just, it's a good vector for you to give money to a good cause. And depending upon how much we raise, I do various things. Also, I just realized I forgot to say, it's a different charity every quarter. Whoops, I forgot to fix that. Also, you might notice that my things kind of get a little bit, it turns out when you're balancing a lot of things, it can get a little complicated. Whoops, I'm going to leave that in, because not everything's perfect. That is a good lesson that I've learned, is just because it's not perfect doesn't mean that it's not good. So I'm going to leave that blatant typo there. Fun things happen on these streams, which is good that I'm putting this in, because it's a good indicator of what to expect from here. Regardless, another show that I do that is mostly this you won't find this on Twitch, you will find this on the YouTube, and there is also a podcast channel, Media Delta. This is a podcast where we talk about it's kind of similar to Retro and Rhapsody. However, it's about taking a look at non-game media that we use the same skill as Retro and Rhapsody, but about media that is culturally relevant to video games. In particular, movies and TV shows seem to be our primary thing, although books and comics are technically not out of the thing. We haven't done one yet. But yeah, stuff like, say, for example, a really good example is a Super Mario Brothers movie. It's blatantly based on a game, and it's not a game. So we take a look at that. There's also stuff like, say, The Running Man, which if you've ever played the game Smash TV, that takes a lot of influence from The Running Man. So we watch that to kind of compare that to Smash TV. And sometimes we just look at weird stuff that I like to look at. For example, a very recent episode was talking about Ralph Bakshi's 1977 movie Wizards, which has nothing to do with video games. It's just a very weird movie that I want to talk about. Our last thing is actually, you might be wondering, what is my world that I've been kind of referring to? Well, a good example of hearing what all that's about is in Hazeltown Story. Hazeltown's the town that it's by where I live. And right now you can hear, the way that this is, it's a podcast where we talk about adventures that take place in my world. In particular, to be specific, it's an actual play podcast, or tabletop RPG. We kind of do this in actually a little bit of a homebrew thing, but it's a tabletop RPG podcast in which a crew of players are immersed in my world of characters as a way to both have fun adventures and also to kind of explore, where I live. It's not exactly how my world is, but yeah, it's pretty close. And it's also weird hijinks ensues. So yeah, it's a fun read. One thing that you might have noticed if you've taken a look in the thing, especially if you watch my videos, you notice that there is a lot of, you see a lot of pictures of various other people. So those people are my friends who it's weirdly enough, they represent kind of a lot of the content that I take a look at. So let me introduce you briefly to them. So we got Rhapsody. She's a fun one. She's really into music and all that. So I asked them to kind of give a brief sense of what they are, just kind of give them a brief sense of what their kind of backstory is. So, Rhapsody, despite being raised with conflict, she looks for love and beauty in all things and has an iron will to do what needs to be done to spread love. Yeah, she does music and stuff a lot. She's very good at it. Actually, she's able to actually channel magic through it. It's actually kind of neat. But yeah, she's a fun one. She actually really, like, her kind of spirited personality is, she's kind of like almost the mascot for Retro and Rhapsody. It's weird that actually is a coincidence that Retro and Rhapsody came across that, and that's her name. But yeah, complete coincidence, honest. And yeah, I kind of assume I'll like associate her personality with arcade games. They can go deeper than you'd kind of expect, but they're mostly pretty fun. So yeah, that's Rhapsody. Then we got Radia. She's an interesting one. Very tech savvy, and also really likes movies and TV. Kind of tinkering with technology is kind of her thing. So Radia, transformed during a research experiment. She started a new life in a foreign land, that being, where we live. To come to terms with her new self and learn about forces that caused it. So yeah, interesting. She used to be a hominid, but some weird experiment, she hasn't fully explained what it was. But yeah, she's interesting looking. We don't quite know exactly what classification she is, but she's a good girl. She's very nice. And yeah, radio DJ, very good voice. And yeah, she's kind of the person come to for Media Delta. She's kind of the face of it. Also like to think of her when I think of like stuff like ROM hacks and also fan games. So Lomi. Lomi is an interesting one, kind of quiet. Very actually kind of similar personality to me, but although a little bit sterner than I am. He's actually Rhapsody's boyfriend. They're very much a couple. It's interesting. He's kind of very kind about it, but they're actually they're cute together actually. His story, dismayed by losing his home to civil war that he fought and lost. He left his home to start a life of healing and raising new life and to build a new community. Yeah, he's actually a smarter cookie than he kind of looks. He looks kind of more like a lunkhead. But he's actually very smart. He's actually a doctor. He actually just recently got his doctorate. Like, he's a full-on healing doctor. He's very good with magic, actually. Like, he's actually very good animancer. Like, he's very good at it. I kind of think about him when I think about puzzle and thinking games. And also, he's also very into the retro ink relief stuff. Being a doctor and kind of helping out. And also kind of trying to build community, too. I know Rhapsody and him are looking to start a family one day. And I think he might actually be getting into local stuff, like trying to community building stuff. So yeah, I think he'll be really good at it. Here we got Bibli. She's interesting. Tied to a book. She's actually a ghost. We think that she's a human, or originally a human. At least that's what her form kind of takes. But yeah, she's in a book, or lives in a little bit of a sarcastic and kind of you don't want to make her mad. She's very she doesn't like being upset. And she will very much point it out when she is upset with you. But yes, she does. She's good, though. She really wants to help. She's just kind of bad at showing it sometimes. But yeah. Her story is not quite sure how she ended up bound to a copy of the Alexandria Wonderworld. She spends her active time helping those who can help her find out her past. So yeah, we haven't quite figured out where she's from yet. We think she might be from Mexico. Not 100% certain. Which, by the way, is the Mexico from our world, not your world. That'd be weird. But yes. And yeah, she is actually very potent with wizardry, which is interesting. Yeah, don't mess with someone who can light you on fire. Just word of advice. She's kind of one of the people that I kind of think about when I think about Hazeltown stories, trying to think of her story and also like her trying to help out with us. And also, naturally for a ghost, horror games. I kind of think of her with that, ghosts and all. Not to be stereotypical, but yes. Here we have Lyla. She is kind of similar to Bibli. She is can be a little bit of a sourpuss sometimes, can also be a bit of a practical joker, especially if you know her, and she really knows how to get under people's skin sometimes, but really, actually, she's also very fun to be around when she's in a good mood, which actually is more often than not. She might look kind of like a sourpuss a lot, but she's actually, she's also another good one. I think all my friends are good ones. But born to a family of adventurers, she set out to live in a foreign land, not only out of wanderlust, but to see what she could make of herself outside of her family's shadow. So yeah, she comes from a little bit of a silver spoon. But yeah, she's trying to make a name for herself and kind of prove herself that she doesn't need her family's legacy to, make something of herself. But if she's a museum curator, she actually knows a lot about, especially cultures around where she lived. She's very good with history. Which is why I think of her also with Retro and Rhapsody, but especially like RPGs and action adventure games where you're kind of exploring a lot. And she can also, she's been trained, her family sent her to like a fancy wizard school, actually. So she actually knows how to do, she's actually a pretty competent wizard. And she knows how to use a sword. So don't mess with her. She'll cut you good. So yeah. Theran. Theran's a good one. Actually a little bit older than a lot of the other ones. Yeah, he is and also interesting, he's a dragon. Although he tends to have dragons in dragons our world, actually have the ability to, I think you refer to as glamour. They spend a lot of time in a very humanish form, but yeah, Theran likes to stay kind of halfway in between. Very interesting looking man. Yeah, he's kind of similar to Lyla. He's very into like appraising stuff, and like also he's very good with like running businesses and all that. Very good with numbers and all that, especially when it comes to management. And yeah, he's also very much a people person. Actually kind of a bit of a telepath, kind of interestingly enough. And yeah, spending most of his life within the confines of Mountainside University analyzing relics, he sought out a new life in a land known for its history of magic items. So yeah, Theran's also, especially in the Hazeltown story, he's also the one that runs stuff with me to kind of get stuff going. And yeah, I kind of associate with him in Hazeltown story. He's kind of the leader of the bunch, at least does all the management stuff. And I think of him, like, especially with like Retro and Rhapsody stuff, I think about him with like tycoon games, but also like kind of adventure games sometimes, because it's a lot of like interacting with scenery and people and like solving puzzles, which I kind of think about him with his, wit and stuff. So yeah. Cass. Cass is a fun one, very boisterous, very friendly. And yeah, he don't exactly know where he came from. He's a bit of an amnesiac, so he doesn't know exactly where he came from. A little bit interesting, like, I noticed, like, we're not exactly certain if, like, he has some weird thing with his eyes we're not fully certain of. That's kind of, we're thinking, like, he might be, we don't know what his story is, but it's kind of an interesting one, I guess. And yeah, he's actually a bit of clairvoyant, like, he can predict stuff. It's kind of interesting. He's very good at reading people. And yeah, unsure of his own history, but sure that this wasn't his original form, he seeks out those who he thinks who may know who he is and what brought him to his current state. So yeah, we're kind of like Bibli. After they came together, Cass found Bibli, and that's how they both came to Hazeltown through him. And yeah, he's kind of looking into where he came from as well. But yeah, he's also very much into, like, he likes playing, like, he likes competition and all that. So when I play versus games, I usually think of him. He's also kind of the mascot for, like, when we do versus stuff and all that. So yeah, those are my friends, the main 7. So yeah, I have other, like, there's other people in the world that we react with, but yeah, those will be introduced at a later time, I'm guessing. You'll see those probably a little bit later on. So yeah, I think that's enough kind of talking about what stuff I do and who these people are. Let's actually take a look at some examples of what I've done in the past. So yeah, I'm going to hop out for a bit and go ahead and enjoy these videos.
No, clearly to beat the frogs, you gotta focus your Hamid.
Okay.
Yeah, but that won't kill the frog.
I mean, why would you want to kill for frog? They're great.
Okay.
What? Yeah!
I'm so glad the one time you do a backflip is when you don't want Bull's game. Sploosh.
Okay. Bets on
instantly wet.
Bets on whether or not I'm gonna screw this up. Oh shit!
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. You just get tired of waiting after a while.
Okay, doke.
The answer was yes.
Okay, note to self.
There you go.
I see that was holding on.
Perfect. God damn it.
Oh, according to Keikaku.
We do the
Friendship.
anime thing. Friendship.
I like how I had to emphasize stay here with your friends.
Yes. I love this ending music.
Yeah, it's just so like.
This is just an anime ED.
Oh,
I made the wrong choice!
Like, just use it whenever. Like, don't be like, oh, what if I need it for another group of enemies?
What if you need it for another giant?
Holy shit!
It's not in the guide, I just want you to pet the dog.
Pet the fucking dog.
Mm-hmm.
Let's use dog on myself.
It's dog on.
What?!
Use dog on myself.
Why?
Sick son of a bitch!
Why?
Lolo, I gotta say, I think pretty sure all that boxing gave you brain damage.
Holy fuck! What do you mean there's never a dog catch around you? You bit the dog!
It killed me!
Jesus Christ! I just want you to pet the dog!
Oh man, they got fancier writing for this headstone.
Fuck.
Your case is closed.
The Rasmus.
Hold on, I need to hear that again.
Now in reverse. It's so good!
Overblood remix.
It's under the Rasmus. This is the real horror right here. I like people jumping.
Someone clip that, please.
Oh man, that was so fucking good.
So, now that we've watched those, I hope that gives you an example of what kind of stuff that I do. So, again, thank you all for watching this. If you're more interested, I do have a personal Twitter that is Lolo De Puzlo. You can also join, there's a Discord server for my content, which you can find at discord.ldp.life. There you can occasionally, for stuff from Media Delta, I'll occasionally put it on, but also put up polls that kind of guide what stuff I look at in the future. And also you can just kind of chat with people who kind of have come around and just kind of talk about random stuff. We sometimes have different conversations about stuff, but mostly stuff about the show. And if you want to watch the show, the best place to do it live is in fact, the only place to watch it live is at twitch.tv/Lolo De Puzlo. I record do these episodes Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with the exceptions of when I do marathon episodes. Those always start at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And Sundays, I start at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is with daylight savings time that is based in the U.S. So, yeah. There's also the best place to watch older stuff is at youtube.ldp.life. My YouTube channel, I have the stuff that I've done in the past is recorded at kind of a higher quality. So that's the best place to watch it if you want it in really high def, kind of looking all nice and crisp. There's also, as I mentioned, there's a podcast channel, which you can find at radio.ldp.life. You can also look for WLDP Hazeltown Radio in your podcatcher, and that should bring it up. So that's all I have to say. thank you for watching, and I hope you stick around. I'd love to have you around.